Welcome to Magical Aspirations, a podcast for magical people, where we aspire to gather all of the knowledge magic has to offer, a place to illuminate and demystify all things magical.
Yep, that's definitely how my family shows love. That's 100% how my husband shows love. He is a fabulous cook. And Becky, I know you know what I'm talking about because Adam also is a fabulous cook. That's how he shows love.
Hells yeah. That's why this bitch got to be exercising all the time. I can
It can't all be delicious sausage gravy, even though we really wish it was.
Hells yeah. Yeah, I want to bounce off of what Adreyauna said. I really find a great connection with my ancestors through dancing. And the other thing is with drumming. Several different types of cultures, if I listen just to straight up drumming and percussion, it really makes me connect with my ancestors. I can close my eyes and I can just feel that rhythm in my heartbeat and I just start dancing. And I am traditionally somebody who trips over her own fucking feet. But damn, I hear that drumming and I am going. I close my eyes and I don't even care that people are watching me. I just dance. I just go. And I feel a connection to these people that are a part of my line and my spirit. And I know that I am a part of that.
Absolutely. There's just something about drums and music in general, just transformer, transporter, all the things.
Well, like I can't think of a single culture that doesn't have some sort of dance, you know, like immediately I think of, you know, just thinking of my two sides of the family, you know, my maternal grandparents were mostly Cajun French. So like you think of the Zydeco with a two-step. But then, you know, my Italian side of the family, there were all these, you know, I think of like the weddings and the celebrations and, you know, you think of like that scene in The Godfather and everybody's dancing around and like, that's such a good, I can't believe I've never thought of that, you guys. Oh my God.
Yes.
Dance, girl, dance.
Dance. I mean, and then just like if you think about it, like if I put my science hat on, dancing is such a freeing experience. It's a grounding experience. It can be whatever you want it to be. And with all of us walking around trying to heal this stuff, like we got to get this shit out of us. And, you know, the universe is consistently moving. So why wouldn't we do that with our bodies in that same way? So
absolutely. Yeah. And the thing that I just thought of too, you said, you know, it's a way to connect. With dancing, I really feel, you know, we are grounding by our feet connecting to the earth. We feel the power of the air as we're moving. We feel the flame within us, the fire. We feel the water and the fluidity of our flow as we're dancing. It is a way for us to connect all of the elements into what we're doing in that current moment. And to step outside of giving a fuck what people think about us. Just close my eyes and be like just connecting for a moment. Like I don't even care that I'm tripping over my goddamn feet.
Well, and that's an important, so as I mentioned earlier, we tried to record yesterday and like the fates were just like not having it. And I came across another podcast that they were talking about like ancestral stuff. And I don't even think as I took this note that this is actually what they were talking about, but this was the message that I needed to hear for this episode that we were going to talk about tonight. For me, there's this transparency that you get with the ancestors that we just simply don't get on a human level. Like, I can be sitting in a room next to someone and we can be experiencing the same thing, but like, even some of the best communicators sometimes can't communicate their feelings adequately. And like how much shit gets lost in translation just because we don't really understand where the other person is coming from. For me, I feel like the ancestors, they know. I don't, even if I say, like, you know, think of like, for instance, when my mama was here, she'd, you know, look at me and go, Beb, what's wrong? And I'll go, oh, nothing, it's fine. She'd go, no, what's wrong? Like, nothing, it's fine. And eventually she would stop. With our ancestry and the people who are on the other side, they see through the bullshit. So like when Becky, like you talk about like dancing without abandon and like all of this stuff, like that's the plus for me for connecting with my ancestors, that there's this no, at least on my end, I don't always know what they're thinking, but they always know what's in my heart, so I don't have to pretend.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I know that I kind of talked a little bit about this in that the Reverend Raven reflection about the first eclipse that I recorded, talking about my dad, my stepdad. And he was a man of few words. And I lived with him for almost 30 years because my mom and my stepdad were together and they had custody of me. And he played the role of my dad, but he wasn't a very emotional person. He wasn't somebody that said, I love you very much, and, things like that. And when he got sick, I didn't even know he was sick until he was so sick that he was about to pass. And like I said, I spoke about that, like just feeling feelings of guilt that I wasn't there for my family during that time when he was ill, and I wasn't there for my mother because I didn't know. I didn't know he was sick. And after he passed away, um, that was a feeling that I had to deal with. I had to deal with those feelings of guilt that I like wasn't there for my family and I wasn't there for him when he was sick and things like that. And I went to a ritual right around Samhain, which a lot of us who are practitioners know that's when the veil is the thinnest. It was about connecting to the ancestors and those on the spirit realm. And in that meditation, I connected with him. And he didn't have a whole lot to say, just like in the living world. But I connected with him. I knew it was him. And he opened his arms and he put them around me. And we hugged, and I was enveloped in his love. And Catherine Lane, the hair witch, who we've interviewed here before, she was leading the meditation. She came up to me afterwards and she just put her hand on me and she knew what had happened. We connected more on that realm, the spiritual realm, after he passed away, almost more than we had when he was alive. He had been on the spirit side for less than 2 months, and we had that meditation, and we connected, and we had this understanding. I understood why he did what he had done in his life and why he was so quiet and private, why he made the decisions that he did in his life. I had this understanding that I never could have had whenever he was on the side of the living. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Wow.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That transparency you talk about, they don't have a filter. What does spirit need to have a filter for? It does nothing. It does nothing but keep us from whatever is on the other side of that. And that experience that you had, I just want to fawn over that. But that's exactly why everybody deserves and needs to tap into that experience. Because just like you, Becky, I had such a similar experience when my grandpa died, and me not being there and dealing with the shame and the guilt that came with that after he passed. And he has been one of the strongest ancestors I have ever connected with. But no surprise, because he was just that strong in living. And I think it's beautiful how they still show their personalities when they are on the other side. But it hits harder and it resonates deeper because they are free. They're in this other realm, this other experience.
Absolutely. And that just really hit a chord whenever you said that they are free. Because so many of us in the world of the living, we feel like we have to be this certain way. We have to live this certain life. We have to get this job. We have to have a family. We have to have this number of kids, blah, blah, blah. And we don't follow our heart and our path. And it really makes me think of one of my other ancestors that I have resonated with the strongest since I've been doing my spiritual work as my grandmother. And taking a look at her life, she got engaged when she was 16. She was from a poor farm family in Indiana. And if she was going to make something of her life, she was going to get married and she was going to have a family. So she got engaged to my grandfather, who was 4 years older than her. He was in the military, he was in the Air Force. He was stationed in Alaska. So they dated 2 years while he was in the service, long distance relationship. He came home and they got married and they had a family. So at the age of 18, my grandmother was married. She was a wife and she had a child, a newborn baby, who was born premature. And my mom was, I think, a little over 5 pounds, little tiny baby, size of a baby doll. And they were afraid that she wasn't going to make it because she was so small and that she wouldn't be strong enough. They ended up having 4 kids altogether. And my grandmother taught school. She was a teacher, taught English. And then the later part of her life, because she was so smart and really good at math, she started doing taxes. She started working for H&R Block. And this is a funny aside, that as she got older and when she suffered from pancreatic cancer, she had a stroke and her body was failing her. In her mind, she could add up the bills faster than my grandfather could use a calculator. She was so smart, but her entire life she built around the idea that she had to be a mother, be a wife, all of these things. And when I was born, the child of her oldest child that she had at 18 years old, she taught me that I could be whoever I wanted to be. I didn't have to fit into that mold. I was that wildling. I was the one that always wanted to do weird things. I wanted to dye my hair purple. I wanted to go to the rainforest when I was in middle school. Like, I wanted to do all these things and be so weird. And she always built that up. She encouraged me to be whoever I wanted to be. And then when she passed about 10 years ago, she became my strongest ancestor ally. When I try to connect to the ancestors and those on the spirit world, she is the one that's there for me. And I feel like she always wanted me to have the life that she couldn't. She wanted me to be me for who I was, not me for the role that I needed to play in society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Grandmama. Thank you. Thank
That was my
you.
Grandma Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grandma Joyce.
Yes. It reminded me of this podcast that I was listening to a few years back, and it's a prayer. It's a prayer, actually. And she said, you think about all of the dreams and the wishes and aspirations that your ancestors have. Where do you think it all went? Where do you think it went? You thought just the idea just disappeared? No, it did what energy does, and it continued to flow throughout the bloodline until it landed with you.
Yes, that is so fucking powerful to me, because that was the other lesson that I was reflecting on over the last couple of days, is where our ancestors came from. Each of us individually, where did our ancestors come from? What hurdles did they have to overcome to provide the kind of life that we had and the opportunities that we had? Personally, for me, all of my ancestors, no matter which line you go back, they were poor farmers. They were people who didn't have enough in where they were, and they had hard situations, but they wanted to help other people. So they were those potato farmers in Ireland. There was a famine and there wasn't enough food to feed their family. So they worked hard enough that they could afford to buy a ticket and come to America and make a new life for our family. My great grandfather was the first trash man in Marion, Indiana. he drove a horse and buggy from Strawtown to Noblesville, from Marion to Strawtown, which is an hour drive, on a horse and buggy to deliver the trash from Marion, a metropolitan area, to the dump in the snow and in the rain, because that was how he provided for his family. They ended up there, that part in Indiana, because they were trying to go west from Pennsylvania, and a member of the family got sick and they had to stop the trek. So it just really reminded me of all of my ancestors have suffered hardships that they overcame so I could be here today. If they didn't persevere, they would have died, and I literally would not even fucking be here.
That brings me to another point that I wanted to talk about a little bit. Becky, it's no surprise at all that you come from a long line of very hard workers, because you're one of the most hardworking people that I know. Just for us to kind of toss around and talk about, like, so I've said before that on both sides of my family, that at least in the short term, the lineage is very Catholic. What do you think the ancestors think about, like, people like me, who I'm practicing something wildly different than what my family norm is? I think that they can clearly see how much it makes me happy. And so I think that they support that, even though it's a little bit different than what they did, obviously, you know. I don't know. That was just kind of an interesting thought. I was curious to see what you guys kind of thought about that. Like, Adriana, I guess from the horse's mouth, like, do you think that on the other side that they're, because, like, I know that people don't really change that much. Like, they're still the same people that they were here. But, like, you know, I like to think they have at least a little clarity to be like, yo, that really lights her fire. Like, maybe it's not Catholicism, but I'm glad she digs it.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of our ancestors are stuck in their ways and they don't give a fuck. But it's okay for you to, like, be different, because what's the point of being the same? And also there is this need and this opening for you tapping into your spiritual practice invites your more ancient ancestors to come in and say, like, that's my girl, and then you tap into some deep ancestral magic just by opening that door. And so even if your immediate family, and even hell, even the past 5 generations have practiced one sort of way, that hasn't always been the way. And they came from somewhere. Everybody has folk magic in their lineage, every single person. And so, yes, your immediate grandmother might not totally 100% understand.
We hear you, Leona. Don't worry.
She probably still supports you. It's not harming you. It's not causing you to be like this complete destructive, violent person. Like, she's with the shit. She gonna keep an eye out for you.
Well, because, like, it makes me think about, so, like, Becky, with your grandma being so supportive of you just chasing after whatever lights your fire, like, it just makes me think of, like, all of the generational curses that between her, your mom, and you, that you guys have, like, what appears to me as very clearly starting to break.
Yes. Yeah, I would say for sure that's it. And it gives me the opportunity to answer what I feel about that question. Is I personally feel that when we're in the spirit realm, once we're no longer here on this earth, that there is some kind of clarity that we get, that there is not this division of, like, oh, I'm Catholic or I'm Christian or I'm pagan or whatever. We get this kind of clarity that there is just spirit, and that people can connect on a spiritual level. Because there's a fucking reason that when I was 19 and never had even heard of paganism or pagan traditions, that it resonated so deeply with me when I started learning about it. Like I felt like I had been practicing that my entire life. There was something there in the back. It's like in the back of the movie theater, there's something back there that's saying, you fucking recognize this. It's like when I hear those drums playing and all of a sudden my feet know how to fucking dance without tripping over themselves. My spirit recognizes that, even if my brain doesn't.
That. Yep. All of it. All of that. All of that. So that makes me want to ask y'all, like, what, since you've started connecting with your ancestors, what has been some of the more comforting lessons that you've learned that you just weren't expecting?
I'd have to say the commonality between people. Like I was just saying, when people pass over, that there's not this division. I assumed that because my family was from a very conservative area and, they were all the same as the people next to them and they all looked the same and dressed the same and thought the same, that, that's what they expected from me. But the more that I connect to my ancestors, actually, the more I meet people that are different from me, but be able to see that commonality. I was in Brazil and met some of the poorest people that I've ever met in my entire life, but they were some of the happiest people. They loved their families. They were making sure their kids went to school so they could have an education to provide for themselves, to get a good job. And they made great food. And on Sundays, they danced together and they were drumming and they were dancing and they were on the beach and they were surfing and things like that. They were enjoying life. And the more, like I said, that I've met people who are quote unquote different from me, the more I've had that connection that we are similar. I really think that has came from connecting with the ancestors in my personal life.
And I feel like it's kind of like I touched on earlier, just about like that transparency. I'm really someone who, like, I feel like the real me really struggles to feel seen and to feel heard. And they bring a lot of comfort in that aspect. Like especially my mama. When I think of comfort, that's my mama. She would check me out of school so much because I would call her. She lived like 3 streets away, and I would be like, "Mama, I don't feel good." Like, and normally it was because like I had a project I didn't do or there was a test I didn't want to fucking take or some shit. And I would call mama and she would come check me out. And my mom had to be like, "Ethel, you got to stop. You got to stop taking her home from school." But then also Adreyauna has this wonderful subscription that I really recommend everybody to. It's her soul support group. In the meeting, I'm pretty sure it was either the 1 or 2 meetings before she kicked me out because she was like, "You don't need this anymore, little bird. Move on." I had this beautiful moment where I actually, you want to talk about someone who struggles with like tangible proof. There is probably nothing in this world that I sometimes wish I could have more than just one of my mama's fucking hugs. And Adreyauna led this meditation and I hugged her. Like you can ask Adreyauna and whatever other sweet, wonderful people that in that moment, I don't even remember who were there with us, but like I had to we were on a Zoom meeting. I had to like turn everything off and just like sob in my closet because like I felt her. And like that is tangible fucking proof for me. Like I don't know how to describe it. And like I don't I'm just gonna
that was such a beautiful experience, because I could see how much you were struggling, and for you to have that experience was just like, fuck yes. Yes. This is why we tap in, so that we can have these moments exactly like this. That
Yes,
ease.
I want to actually jump off of that and share an experience that I had with my grandmother. I told you how special that she is to me. A few years ago on my birthday, which is actually her birthday as well, August 1st, Llamas. For all of you Leos out there, August the 1st. Anyway, they decided to make a pagan holiday on my birthday. Whatever. So a few years ago, I was in Florida, Navarre Beach. We were meeting up with some friends, and I woke up early on that morning. And when I woke up, it was lightly raining, and I look out over the bay, the beach, and the ocean was on the other side, and there was a giant rainbow, and it was so beautiful. And I knew in that morning on our birthday that it was my grandmother speaking out to me and saying, I am here with you. I know that you miss me being here in the physical form, but I am here for you. And I saw that rainbow and some light raindrops, and I'm sitting out there by the pool on my birthday by myself, connecting with her in that moment and crying, just sobbing, like you said, Annalisa, sobbing, knowing that she is there for me, though, even though she's in the spirit form. And then we go and meet up with my friends who we were, meeting up with there in Navarre, and find out that one of our best friends, his dad had just taken his own life on my birthday. And I knew as soon as I found out what happened, that's why my grandmother was telling me she was there for me. Because it was going to be a really hard fucking day. But I wasn't alone. And I would never be alone. And that is the message to me of the ancestors and doing ancestor work, that no matter how hard things are, how dark things are, how sad things are, that I am never alone.
Yeah, that is it. They're always here. They're just always here. And I just really certainly encourage everyone to, another topic that I did want to kind of broach, Adriana, what do you feel about people who either don't know their actual like ancestral lines, or like they don't jive with their family? Like, who can they call on? And like, or like stuff like that.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. So this is very, very personal for me too, because there is a whole line of my family I know nothing about. So my biological father side, I don't know who they are. But hope is not lost, because again, like I was talking about, there are ancient people for you to tap into. So you can always call forth those ancestors. You can ask them to show themselves and reveal themselves, and they will. It may take you a little bit longer than someone who already knows their family or has names, pictures, whatever, it may just be a little bit longer, but I promise you they will show up. The notes I have on my paternal side of the family are so long, but it took me 4 years to develop this one page of notes, and there was stuff that was just dropped into my spirit or a dream. And I just take it, and hopefully one day I can prove it. Hopefully one day I won't. I don't know, but I'm rocking with it. So there's that.
Yeah, that's super powerful. I remember like a few episodes ago, whenever we were chatting, you were talking about going to a library and, kind of looking into your roots too. I know that was on the other side of the family, but I think, talk a little bit about that, of how do you learn about your ancestors?
Mm-hmm. It is a journey. So I don't want people to think that they're just automatically going to learn everything by saying, like, okay, I'm tapping into the ancestors, because that's not how it works. One, because they don't want to overwhelm you. Two, you're not going to fucking remember. And three, there's going to be information that you will unlock at different times of your life. And that is so important for each and every one of us. So I may not know everything right now, but I'm okay with that. I've made peace with that. So some of the ways is altars. You can set up your ancestor altar. I highly recommend, if you have a sacred space somewhere in your home to do this, do it. You can also just go chill out in nature. Direct connection to the ancestors is always through nature. I'm always going to be an advocate for that. If you can't set up an altar space in your home, you can write letters to your ancestors. You can set intentions to dream about the life your ancestors lead or the gifts that they've bestowed upon you. And for those people who just don't know literally diddly shit about anything related to their biological people, that's okay, because look within yourself. Look at the things that you're interested in. So, for example, if you are a dancer and dance just brings all the joy in the world to you, start connecting with people who did dance that you love and adore. Learn about their history, who they are, learn even deeper, tap into them, light candles for them, and know that these passions that you are invigorated by also connect you to a whole line of people who also are excited about this one passion. And that specifically goes for these queer and trans people who are trying to figure out, like, fuck my family, but like, where my ancestors at. The same thing goes for y'all and us. And those people who may have come from different types of war or some sort of violence or abduction, the same goes for you. You don't have to connect to your biological ancestors. You have that right. Maybe one day you will, maybe one day you won't. Fuck it. Okay. But the ancestors exist collectively. The ancestors are also the ancestors of this earth that we are living on, this planet. And there's so many souls for you to tap into. So that's my rant.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that actually leads me to a very juicy topic and question here. What do you do when there's somebody that you know is in your biological line or your ancestor that you don't approve of what they did? What if they were a shitty fucking person? Like, what do you do with knowing that information that you are related to somebody that did some really horrible fucking things?
Or like even like people who just have like traits that you don't like. If you have someone, a relative who like died of like a drug overdose, like maybe that's not some energy that you really want to be like, yeah, how do you like cherry pick like who to work with or not work with?
So, oh, good question. One, acknowledge. You denying is only gonna hurt you, the ancestors, and the descendants. Acknowledge what happened. You can always do some cleansing work for yourself and your lineage. And then you also can say, if you don't want a certain spirit around, you block them, protect yourself from them, whatever you need to do. You let your other guides know, I don't want to connect with this person. And more than likely, it's not going to happen. Sometimes we do have pestery spirits, and that's when you put up your protection, your wards, and things like that. But you do want to cleanse that energy, and you want to nourish it like you would a wound, like a physical wound. You do the same type of treatment for this spiritual wound that has happened within your lineage. Cleanse, heal it, nourish it, give it some love, some softness, so that whatever energy trickled from that particular action is no longer going to be a hindrance to both those in spirit and those who are living. So I hope that makes sense.
It totally does. Do you feel like we have I guess in like starting to loop around to like ancestral trauma and like generational stuff, we kind of talked about that. Do we have I don't want to say the word duty because I don't feel like that is correct. More like, so like, okay, I use the example of like, say a relative dies of like a drug overdose. They go through some sort of, I believe they go through some sort of like clarifying on the other side. Like, we maybe still don't want to call in that energy, but like you said, acknowledge. So like, would you still like light a candle for them? Like, I don't want to work with your spirit, but I hope that you are peaceful and will move on peacefully.
Yes. That's actually, yes, that right there. And when you are called, be specific. If you don't take away anything else from this here discussion, take away the energy of being specific on who you call into your space. So you're going to call upon your honorable ancestors, the ancestors who align with your best and highest good, or the ancestors who are here to be benevolent. Use something that is highlighting those who are healed, who are aligned, and who have your best interest or the best interest of the situation at heart. So that means those who don't are not included, are protected pretty much from the ritual space intention that you are setting. Yes. So definitely being specific is key. But yeah, they're still part of your shit. So it's like you gotta give that some healing space, and you can give it back to the ancestors to help heal. And if you aren't in a space to deal with that triggering type of energy, do not work with it. Just be like, you know what? I'm gonna handle that in 2 years. Okay. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, I really have something to throw in here. I totally agree with that. I feel like whenever we know that there are certain things that have happened in our ancestral line, we can acknowledge those things, and either we can personally understand why they did what they did, even if we don't agree with it, and give them some peace and move on, or we don't. We don't understand why they did what they did, but we let them be over there. And I have people in my ancestral line that I'm like, you know what? I don't really want you in my bubble. I'm going to learn from your mistakes, and you can stay over there. I don't wish you anything ill. I don't agree with what you did in your life. I don't agree with the things that you did to our family and what you put our family through. But I'm not going to curse you or wish ill will upon you or anything like that. But you can take your energy and you can stay over there.
I agree with that. Yeah, it's complicated. Just like, family is complicated. So the same thing applies when we are connecting with our ancestors. It doesn't just get better because they're in spirit,
But I think that this is a good point to remember. It's not as easy when they're alive, I guess, but you can say, I don't want to deal with you. You're not welcome in my space. This is a great time to set boundaries, especially when you're working with the ancestors in spirit. Say, I don't welcome you in this space. You're not what is for my higher good. Your energy is not for my higher good. And so I don't welcome you in this space. I may have to protect myself from some of my ancestors.
Absolutely.
But that's reality. You all can stay over there. Go and get it. Just because we're related doesn't mean you're allowed access into my personal sphere, and whether that means that you're in the spirit realm or you're alive. Just because we're related doesn't mean that you have full reign to my mind and my spirit.
Right. Well, and like an example, I was chatting with my mom about this the other day. That's so like my Papa. Like, he is someone who I know he watches over me. Like, I have literal zero doubt that he is always there. But I remember him as he was happy. I remember his smile. I remember his laugh. Like, he would, I was just his little Dago gal. Like, that's who I was to him. But like my little sister, she's quite a few years younger than me. And she talks about how she only remembers really the end of his life. He had heart trouble for a long time, and so she talks about how she remembers him as, obviously he was still Papa, but he was sick. He wasn't as jolly, I guess, I remember him not sick. I remember him, honestly kind of chunky and full of life. And like, it's okay for people to, like, my papa is someone that I call on all the time, but like my little sister probably doesn't. And like, there's no there shouldn't be any weirdness about that she not that it's weird between us, but like, just for example's sake, that like, just because even that me and my family have a lot of similar ancestors, like, we can still utilize them in very, very, very different ways.
Yeah, I agree with that. Different strokes for different folks. Same thing applies.
Totally.
Well, yeah,
Totally.
your relationship with each person is individual. So that goes with the ancestors too. Like I was saying, like, you have a different relationship with your grandfather than your sister had with your grandfather. So that can be the same in the physical realm and the spirit realm.
Right. Like, the whole point of this is that, like, talking to them or connecting with whomever, whatever ancestors you use. Like, just because grandma's on the other side now, if you didn't like her on this side, then, maybe definitely don't call on her.
That part right there. Right there. Because there's definitely a few ancestors that I'm like, not today, Satan. Not today.
But that's really interesting because there's that side, and I totally agree with that. But there's also situations where I was like saying about my stepdad, where I'm actually closer to them now that they are in the spirit realm. So maybe you can understand them more, or you can connect to them more when they're on that side, because they don't have to wear this like human meat suit. They don't have to be a person anymore and be a provider and a dad and play all these different roles like they did in this life. Maybe they can be more who they are whenever they're on the spirit realm.
Well, and that's also, like you said, the double side of the transparency that we talked about. That, like, that's how I feel about all of my grandparents. Like, now that I'm an adult, like, I think about what were they doing when they were 33? Like, what I can see. So, like, I talked about my papa earlier. Like, he is someone who, especially in his younger years, had a reputation of being a pretty stern man. He had rules and you followed them. They weren't really questioned. And like, I think that's how, like, my dad and some of my older cousins kind of remember him. But like, by the time I was one of the younger grandkids, so like, he was like pretty chill by the time I came around, and I had a healing session not too long ago that the healer noted that there was a gentleman on the fringes who didn't really want anybody to know he was there, but he definitely let me know that he was keeping an eye on the situation. And like, that's Papa. I have no question at all that was my Papa. And I had another point in there, but it's gone now.
C'est la vie, c'est la vie.
It'd be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes. I guess he just wanted me to talk about him. I love my Papa.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point, though. You were talking about his different roles. Like I was saying, when they're in spirit realm, they don't have to identify in the way that they did when they were here. So you were saying, like, when he was younger, he was like stern and you followed his rules and things like that. But then whenever you knew him, he was like the grandpa that was more laid back. Like, that was definitely my grandpa. Like, by the time that I came around, I was the BRAT. So what that means is that I was the youngest, and he spoiled me rotten. But I was like, I tried to be super, independent, and I'm 3 years old, and he was wanting to push me on the swing, like being a caring, nurturing, grandpa. And I'm saying self, like I wanted to do it myself. So it just became this running joke. And he was like, you're a BRAT. So it just became a running joke that I was this, spoiled brat and I did whatever I wanted. But you know what? He let me do it. And that was way different than, whenever he was the dad. Like my mom and her brothers, they never stepped out of line when they were younger, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just an example that like over time, people's roles change in their lives. And I think that happens with the ancestors too. Once they're spirit, they don't have to like be a certain way or like act a certain way. They can just be themselves and be free.
I agree. Free. That's really it.
I know. That's a good word. Free. That's a good word.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am perusing through my notes here. I think the only question I haven't asked yet is what are your magical aspirations? But Becky, are the ancestors calling you to say anything else, or do you have any more questions? Comments, wisecracks, concerns?
Funny. I really think the only thing I didn't ask is I really want to hear about Adriana's ancestors. Where do you come from? Who are your people?
Ooh. So I am all over the place, but for the most part, I am a Southern girl, true and true. My folks are originally from Louisiana, Mississippi, and then from there we came from East Africa and South Africa. Is where most of my lineage is. There is a little bit of West Africa, so like Nigeria specifically, but most of my lineage is going to be from East Africa, like Eritrea, and South Africa. So that's where my lineage is from. And then I also have a string of French, and then also we have connections to the wow, I just blanked. Okay. That must mean I'm not supposed to talk about it. So that is most of my lineage.
I think I remember in the past, though, actually, that you talked about having some Native American ancestors as well in your lineage.
Yes. And that I was going to talk about that. And then that's when I blanked. And I know what spirit means when I do that. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because I had a note in here and I kind of just kept like running over it real quick, that like that's one of the ways that I find that my ancestors connect with me the most, in like the rejection is protection kind of sense, that like I have been known to throw a hissy fit when I don't get my way, but like yesterday, perfect example, like there was a moment where everything was going haywire with the technology. My mic that has not given me a lick of trouble since we started this just all of a sudden was like, yep, nope, I'm not working. And like I wanted to be pissed off about it, but I was like, no, just chill the fuck out. Like I could pretty much hear them. Like for someone who like doesn't hear things audibly, sometimes I could feel like they were just like, will you just relax? Like just relax. Everything's going to be fine. And like here we are tonight. We've been recording. This call has been recording for over 2 hours now, and we haven't had an ounce of trouble. So like that's such an important, people pay attention to the things that you get led away from, because a lot of the times that's your people helping you.
Girl,
That's it.
I have to talk about yesterday. Okay, now that you brought it up, I have to talk about yesterday. So we set up at like 7:00. I'm at the campground. I set up the laptop, the microphone, everything else. Annalisa and I do a test call. All right, we can get it from my cell signal, whatever. Everything's perfect. I check the radar. It's not like chance of rain till 2 or 3 p.m. And I go get coffee, everything's set up. My husband's making sure nobody like comes by our campsite, messes with the computer. We're going to record at 9:30. At 9:15, it starts thundering and black clouds rolling in over the Gulf. And we were like, oh shit, it was not supposed to rain. So I immediately started like packing up the computer, putting it away. He's trying to break camp, all of that. And I get the computer put up and we'll almost get stuff from camp put away. And at like 9:25, the sky just opens up and it just starts pummeling, pouring down rain. and I got the wettest I have been in clothes in several years. I can't say ever because I have been caught in some nasty fucking rainstorms in my life, but I am so wet. I am wearing my little straw cowboy hat with the flowers around it that y'all see me wear in pictures all the time. It is soaked. It's pouring the water down my face. I have to go up to where the restrooms are to take cover. I'm trying to call in on my little iPhone headphones and everything so I can still do the call. And the people who are the camp hosts have their little radios or two-way radios and talking about like a water spout, like literally a funnel over the water. And my husband's out there trying to tear down our tent. And so I run out there and I'm like, hey, babe, are you almost done? I think we should take cover. They're literally up there like taking cover in the restrooms. And we're out here like trying to record and worrying about recording this podcast. And I'm like, there's trying to be a natural disaster out here.
Right. Like the waves are crazy. And then we tried again.
Mm-hmm. But okay, this is the icing on the cake. We meet the camp hosts and they are the nicest fucking people that we've ever met. It's their first time ever hosting. They're staying at the campground for like a month at a time. They get to stay there for free rent. They just clean the bathrooms and clean up the sites, you know, when people leave, 3 days on, 3 days off. We find out about their lifestyle and we have this dream about being on the road. We would love to be able to live on the road and travel and do all of the random business things that we do on the road. And we got to find out how we could make that happen. But if it wouldn't have rained yesterday, we never would have met those people. That was my ancestors telling me, hey, this is how you can make this shit work.
Absolutely. And it's just like, it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that that happens all the time. And plus, I mean, we are just like in such a special time where we have to stop limiting ourselves to whatever is right in front of us and just reconfigure, like maybe these tools don't work that way, but let me try to turn them around, flip them upside down and make them fit this way. And all of a sudden I have everything that I need. It's the perfect thing for me to propel myself forward. And I think our ancestors just want us to just look with your eyes, open your ears.
Right. Just we are trying so hard to help you. Like I said, we tried again a second time after Becky and Adam got out of the clutches of Mother Nature. We tried again while they were driving and like everything worked for like a whole half a second. And then shit went completely haywire again.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of the podcasts that I follow pretty religiously, actually 3 of them had talks about ancestors, and I was able to listen to all of those yesterday, and they gave us a lot of fodder for today's episode. So I'm really grateful, as always, we've all given their thank you, ancestors.
Always.
Absolutely. And that was all my point with that story is like, we have all of these ideas of like what we think we should do in our lives and the path we're supposed to take and all of that. But if we can just like get over our fucking selves, the ancestors and the universe have this like wonderful path laid out for us. We just have to follow it. We have to listen, you know?
Stop being little hard-headed children and just
exactly stop for 1 minute and just know that like I don't think you could find a more persistent group of people than the 3 ladies that we have here right now. And we were fucking persistent yesterday. We were like, we are doing this. And they said, nah.
Nope.
They said, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet.
You gotta think
not
about
yet.
it. Think about what you're gonna say. You know, connect with us, connect with the universe. Go have some experiences between then and now, and reflect on this.
Yeah.
So you can share the message.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I I guess that leads us to our last question, my dear lady, since you are the interviewee. What are your magical aspirations?
The answer I had yesterday is completely different than, well, it's not completely different, but my magical aspirations right now are to deepen and explore the way I connect with the elements of water, fire, earth, and air, and then exploring how that relationship with these elements have shifted since I am now in my 28-year-old body, what that means for me. Also, my magical aspirations is to dive deeper into my paternal magic, what that means, our practices, rituals, language, all of that. And then lastly, I just want to be the best damn medium that I possibly can be. Yeah, that's it.
Hell yeah, my friend. Hell yeah. I love you. You're so wonderful. I love you so much. Will you tell the people where to find you at Ink to Prosperity?
Yes. There is a spam account out there. Okay, JK.
Oh, I heard you like super official. You got fake accounts.
Disgusting. Anyway, but I am Ink to Prosperity. That is INKTOPROSPERITY. Ink to Prosperity on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just find me. I'm there doing something weird. Yeah, I love to connect.
I love it. We're going to obviously tag all your business and all our business because your business is our business.
You know, imitation is the biggest form of flattery, Ink to Prosperity. So people just want to be like you because you're so fucking cool.
She's so fly. We love it.
But do y'all want these struggles though? I think not.
I mean, they don't want to lift those weights, but they want to look cool like you too. They want to wear them muscles. They just don't want to lift them weights.
That's it right there.
Exactly. We can't all be fly like you.
Man.
We can't. We could try.
We could try. I'm trying.
Well, is there anything else anybody got, or are we gonna call it a wrap for the evening?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap.
I love it. Well, thank you to everybody who listened. We had so much damn information that we had to split this mother in two, and I'm not even a little bit sad about it because this was a wonderful conversation. It was nice to get back to basics with just the two other ladies. Mm-hmm. That's all she wrote for tonight. All right, everybody, say goodbye and stay magical.
Stay magical.
Goodbye, stay magical.
Bye. Love y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Magical Aspirations. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Magical Aspirations to keep up with the latest and the greatest from Annalisa, Adreyauna, and Reverend Raven, and to join in on the Magical Aspirations conversations. Come check out our website, magicalaspirations.com, to find bonuses from our guests, our Magical Aspirations blog, and to reach out to our magical hosts with questions, comments, reviews, or ideas for future episodes. We are so grateful for each and every one of you listening. Thank you again, and as always, stay true to your magic.